Welcome back to another episode of Lit&Bruised, an Atlanta literary podcast. I'm John Carroll.
And I'm Matt DeBenedictis. Today's episode is with Adam Robison, whose dedication, creative process, and love for the written word is found in the books he publishes through his press, Publishing Genius. Publishing Genius was a formidable inspiration for me when I got into the writing game. And what I'm trying to say is Adam is one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. This was a really fun episode. Adam showed up to John's apartment bringing books, craft drinks, and a special guest for a very big announcement. We hope you enjoyed the episode.
Adam, when I think about you, I always think about baseball. And I'm not sure where that is, but I feel like the first time I met you, we were talking about baseball. And then I played softball with you once.
Yeah.
And I probably have gone to a baseball game with you, which I don't think I actually have, but I would go to a baseball game with you. You're a big baseball fan, aren't you?
I have been a big baseball fan. I think that came from, well, in 2005, after I'd been graduated from college for 6 years and had gone through my anti-poetry stage, because I think like it's common for people and after they finish their degree to like sort of rebel against whatever it was that they studied. I decided I would get into poetry again. There's sort of like a New Year's resolution. So then in 2006, having realized that worked really well because I'd gotten really into poetry, I decided I would get into baseball. You know, it could be the other way around.
Yeah.
I think it actually was the other way around. I think I got into baseball like as a New Year's resolution. And I was like, that worked well. Let's check out poetry. And so then I got really into poetry. And then I tried to get like a new hobby every year. So like it was poetry, baseball, and then cooking, which didn't work out. And then it kind of all fell apart from there.
So cooking ruined it for you.
Yep. But now it's happened again. So yeah, when you met me, I was super into my softball stage.
Yeah.
Between the failure of cooking and softball, so that's like 2007 and 2014. Well, probably like 2012.
Yeah.
What happened was publishing. Like I got really into publishing, and that was a long ride. And then I think I needed another hobby. Like publishing became my way of life and not just like a hobby anymore. And so that was when I got into softball. And I got all my friends, and we were the worst softball team in the world.
I played one game with y'all. I was really busy in that time frame, and I wanted to play more.
Yeah, you look like a real athletic guy.
I played sports in high school, and I have this theory that if you can play basketball, you can play most sports. Because, you know,
right.
Running, jumping, a little bit of eye-hand coordination. And I never played baseball really growing up. I played it a little bit here and there. But when I was 30, about 6 years ago, I went to a batting cage randomly, and I was out and about, and I was wearing cowboy boots, and a friend of mine invited me, and I remember I went into the cage, and on my second run-through of 10 balls or however many you get in the cage, I hit 10 in a row at 72 miles an hour, and I thought, I played the wrong sport growing up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then you got to think about this, though. Was I good at baseball because I spent so many years playing basketball, though? You know, did that help me?
Those sports don't seem to like share a lot of the same.
True, skills. But you got to kind of like pay attention. But I don't know. I mean, it was way too late.
Michael Jordan was not great at baseball in spite of being pretty good at basketball.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say running.
Oh, yeah, running. I mean, but, I was just sitting there with boots on, swinging. But I like it. I think it's I like playing most sports. I think they're just fun to play,
I can't hit a baseball, but I think in my last season of softball, which was like 2 years ago, and I haven't been invited to join another team. So if anybody in Atlanta out there is looking for a softball player, let me know. In my last season, I think I went like 19 for 21 or something like 19 for 20. Like I just didn't miss. But if you were to like put me in a batting cage, I'd look like I don't know. I look very bad at hitting a ball with a bat.
I haven't been back in a long time. The last time I went to a batting cage actually was Scott Dottridge, and that was probably
that guy has the weirdest swing. He can really choke up on the bat.
Oh, is he like really high up?
He chokes up like one hand at the bottom of the bat and like one hand about halfway up, and he just like puts his arms above his head and swings.
That's like one of the characters from like RBI Baseball '92 on the Sega Genesis. Yeah, they'd have like 5 different stances.
This was so like 1930s Babe Ruth stance or something.
I wouldn't want to get in a fight with me. He'd probably be like holding up his dukes, all like flush, trying to hit you.
But he would hit it to the fence every time.
He's like a pretty athletic dude. Actually, Matt and I went on a little reading tour with him
without knowing him.
Yeah, without really knowing him. And we almost got in a fight, and by we, I mean me, and Scott, like, stepped to this dude who was trying to beat me up for walking down the street. He's a little bit more involved than that, but I wouldn't fuck with Scott. You know, I mean, and it was weird being on that tour because I'm 6'1", and I was hanging out with dudes that were bigger than me, which that never happens, you know? Like, are you 6'2", Matt?
No, I'm 5'11".
You're not 5'11". You gotta be taller than me.
I'm like just at the cusp of 6.
Oh, Jesus, we need to measure. Scott's taller than me at least, and I wouldn't fuck with Matt either. But you know, Scott, if you're listening, I love you. Thanks for having my back in Asheville against that guy who looked like Neo.
Dude, you just kept calling Neo.
I did keep calling. I was drunk, and I kept on calling him Neo. I think
so. You deserved it.
I didn't deserve it. He started it.
Yeah. Well, Scott's a peacemaker.
Yeah.
So, Adam, you mentioned earlier about how baseball was kind of like just a hobby that you were picking up, and before that it was cooking, and then you stopped after you failed. How do you define failure with the hobbies?
Well, I just didn't keep going with it, I guess. You know, like, I think that what the hobby entailed was like getting a hold of some things, like pots or whatever. A spatula. My mom for Christmas that year, once I told her that this was what I was doing for Christmas this year, she just totally sent me boxes and boxes of cooking equipment. And I don't know, like I didn't really even understand cookbooks at that time. So there was nothing to help me maintain my interest.
That's very interesting because you eventually have, with Publishing Genius, have put out a cookbook.
Yeah, I know, right? Which is a very non-traditional cookbook.
Yeah.
As a cookbook, it's I think it's very ingenious, but it's not like what I expect from cookbooks now.
Yeah.
But you know, having married Amy, she has a million cookbooks, and they're so fascinating. And she's like, I never see her read one of these cookbooks, but obviously she read it. You know, she bought it and read it, and now she knows what it says. And so like I'll be like just standing in front of her wall of cookbooks, and I'll be like, what's this Tom Colicchio book? And she's like, oh, that's great. If you want to know about braising, that's the one to look at. So I'm like, that's cool. I want to have somebody to bounce my hobby off of, and so she does a good job of that. And so now, yesterday I made rabbit. I made some sort of like a rabbit with a really nice mustard sauce.
Okay.
I got it out of the New York Times cooking.
Nice. Yeah. Rabbit's awesome.
But you considered cooking to be a failed hobby.
It was in 2007. Now 7 years later, it's not like the hobby that I chose at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
That for me, since softball has been cocktails. And then, and now I think I've got a new one, and I can formally announce it tonight. It's woodworking.
Woodworking.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really into woodworking now.
What are you making?
I made a end table.
What style?
Well, it's called a C table.
Okay.
So it's basically what I did was I took a 2x4 and I cut it up into pieces, and then I glued them all together, and then I made mortise and tenons. You know what that is?
I do not.
So like the mortise and the tenon, like one of those things, I'm not sure which one's which. The mortise, say, is this like it's like the extrusion on a piece of wood that goes into the tenon, which is like the cutout piece of wood.
Okay.
So it holds together that way as opposed to like a nail or a screw. So I made a mortise and tenon end table. And it's like the kind where if you're sitting on the couch, you can pull it around and pull it up to you like a TV tray.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
How did you kind of discover that you wanted this to be your hobby?
I don't know. And I don't know really where any of them come from, but I think I've the reason it's stayed my hobby for the last month and a half is because I just watched a million YouTube videos about them, and now I started commenting on them and stuff too.
Oh, it's over once you start commenting on them. That is your past entry.
It's actually really cool. There's this guy, Mad Raven Woodworking or something like that. He like has a reality show. It's just
like maybe you were talking about like a commenter. I was waiting for you to be like Mad Wood 72.
No,
he said some really good things.
Right. No, man, the commenting on YouTube is actually really good. I think people are smart and compassionate. Yeah. They've got constructive things to say. No, this guy, it reminds me of like the early, or for me and you, Matt, the early days of the literary small press world of like coming up with brilliant and sort of innovative ideas for ways to promote things. And so he's helping, or he's running a reality show for other woodworkers where they all like mail him a cutting board, and then they introduce themselves and he splices it all together. I guess it's like vlogging.
Okay.
Vlogging.
Video blogging.
Yeah. And then viewers write in and they vote on which cutting board was their favorite.
Do people troll the woodworking YouTube videos?
So that's the thing is I watch it on my TV.
Okay.
And which is who knew actually a thing you can do. Did you know this?
I've got a smart TV.
Yeah.
And I don't use it as much as I should, but every once in a while I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna, watch whatever. I will watch some. I like watching like weird fucked up videos of. I like watching videos about videos that are on YouTube, like the 10 craziest videos on YouTube, and it'll be something like eerie and mysterious, and they're not sure what it is, but I've done that on my TV. So
yeah,
you watch woodworking, which seems very logical,
right?
And
productive.
And I watch bullshit because that's what my mind thinks about. So
I work from home, and I don't really talk to people during the day, and I don't take a lunch break unless I can convince myself for some reason to take a lunch break. So what I've started doing is like I'll in order to stop working, because you kind of have to stop working. You can't work all through the day. My mind will be gone by 2:00, and then it's not productive anymore. So I force myself to take a lunch break, and I watch YouTube videos during that, and I watch woodworking YouTube videos during that lunch break.
How very fascinating. I actually want to watch these now. My father was a carpenter.
I bet you if you watch them, you're gonna call your dad. And
my dad's an architect. He's been an architect for like 50 years, and he was a home builder and woodworker and all this shit. But
Dad, what do you know about mortise and tenons? Which one's which?
He didn't teach me a goddamn thing, though. I mean, I don't know shit, man. I mean, I couldn't build you a box if I wanted to. And I think about that often, though. I'm like, I should probably learn how to do this.
I should probably learn how to build a box.
Or just something,
like a table.
Build my own coffin.
That's where it came from. Amy and I, so we moved, and we were we're kind of like needing a lot of furnishings for our house. And we're like, we need a bed. And I'm like, I'll build a bed. She's like, let me just buy a bed, please. And then I'm like, let me build a table. I wanted to build our dining room table. And she's like, let's just, we'll just save up and buy a dining table. And then I was like, I guess I'll build an end table.
You can get away with the end table. Does she like the end table?
It cost me $5 total. But I haven't finished it yet because you have to wait 32 hours between sandings or something.
So you literally just finished this.
I'm currently I'm actually literally finishing it. But it took me about a week, and now tomorrow I'll sand it and apply the last coat of polyurethane, and then I'll try again and do a better one.
Wow, sounds like this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Yeah, it sounds like the cocktails I was making when I first started cocktailing, and the poems I wrote at the beginning and most recently.
Yeah, it's learn from failure.
What do you think your hobby is going to be in 2018 with the new year rolling around? I mean, you think woodworking, it sounds like it's probably going to carry over, but are you going to create another hobby?
Right. So now I think I'm on a mid-year schedule. So probably the summer of next year is when I'll come up with a new one. And I feel like you can't force it.
Yeah.
And it might be 5 years before before I do another one, because maybe woodworking is going to tide me over till then.
I love hobbies. I've had a gazillion of them, and I know that I'll continue. I'm always trying to create hobbies, and it's, I don't know if it works this way for you, but I kind of like see something out there, and I'm like, that's pretty interesting, and then I'll read up on it a good bit, play around with it, kind of put it in the back burner for 6 to 12 months, and then once I get it figured out in my brain, and a lot of times I won't even tell people what I'm thinking about, and then all of a sudden I'll just show up and be like, this is what I'm doing. People are like, what? Why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know, man. I've just been thinking about it for a year. They're like, we've never heard you talk about this before.
Yeah. Well, right. That's exactly what I do, except for now, as soon as I notice I'm starting to get interested in something, I talk about it on podcasts.
Okay.
Apparently.
That's definitely a process. I mean, I'm the complete opposite. Like, I just see something, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to find out more about that. And it's like all in, 100%, no breaks, like no mulling it over.
What's the last thing like that?
This podcast.
Yeah, probably making this sound good.
Learning how to engineer, because like I'm the poor man's podcaster. I just show up.
Right.
I show up.
You got a
and I
tape deck.
blow up. Yeah. I just show up here. I talk. I built the website. That's always like the thing. I'm like, well, I built the website. Like I'm like trying to like justify my existence on Lit&Bruised. But
I mean, your ability to code in that kind of came almost out of a hobby-like state.
Oh, definitely. My day job is from hobbies. So that's why I like to do hobbies in media. All of my hobbies revolve around media of some sort, because I like creating content. I think it's fun, and I like just to come up with new ways to, like, how could you do a reading series differently, or how could you do like a photo project differently, things like that. I think it's so much fun to be able to communicate with people, and then also to be able to create things. I mean, we're all artists and writers here, so it's like, I think we all have that. Obviously the whole point of this podcast was birthed out of that idea. So but we were I was looking at Publishing Genius today, and Matt creates these wonderful bios about people. Now, is Publishing Genius, is this ongoing currently?
Yeah.
Okay. It sounded like earlier you're like, well, they got into publishing, they got into
I know. Yeah. I guess I kind of did phrase it that way.
Yeah. I was like,
no.
I was like,
yeah.
What I meant is
his last
like
4 books.
Like,
nice.
It became like part of me rather than like a hobby, like something that I was doing, to see what it was like, or to like, be a hobbyist at it. Like, it just kind of like, it didn't become my career, like, but it led to my career. Publishing Genius specifically. Publishing is my career. Publishing Genius is just like my like more than I ever really realized. It's just sort of who I am.
Yeah. So what was the last book that you published? The
last book I put out was this little poetry book here, which, if you're at the studio audience, I'll hold it up so you can see. I guess we have one.
Clap if you can see it. Yeah.
It's called Irksome Particulars by Matt Cook. It's 100 aphoristic little poems that are like observational, funny, sort of. Matt Cook this is the second book by him that I've published. He is a Milwaukee poet, in fact, the poet laureate of Milwaukee.
Nice.
Right. Which is a great honor. Milwaukee is an amazing city. I lived there for 5 years, and he was actually the poet that kind of like pulled me back to poetry.
Really?
He's got such a amazing reading style, and his poems are so affectionate and engaging. And I remember telling him, as I bought his book in a dark bar, I said, I love your poetry, and I don't even like poetry. And he said, well, nobody likes bad poetry. And
it's a good response.
Yeah, and that was so liberating for me. It sort of allowed me to decide for myself, as opposed to like what was taught to me, what I liked about poetry, And so from that was what made me like poetry again.
You made me want to read his book, so I think I will. So I've been in Milwaukee once. I had my best friend lived in Chicago for about 5 years. I would go up and visit him, once or twice a year. And one day we decided to go to Milwaukee. It was like an hour and a half ride or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And I ended up, I had a friend there that was getting his master's. And so popped in to see him, met him at a bar. I'm sitting in this bar, and he says to me, hey, play this game with the bartender. You can win a free drink. And I said, that sounds awesome. I'll play any game. I can't lose anything. In worst case scenario, I just have to buy my drink.
Right.
So I play this game with the bartender that I did not understand and won a free Guinness. Do you have any idea what the hell this game is? It was like
Did it have dice?
Had dice in a box.
Like a rubber cup or something like that?
Yes.
And you like shake it up and you just slam it down on the bar.
What the fuck is
and
that?
Something like, I mean, I don't know. It's some version of Yahtzee. Were you at the Polish Falcon?
What does it look like?
It looks like there's a bowling alley in the basement, but you would not know it.
I bowled at some bar in fucking Milwaukee.
Well, you could have been at Landmark, which has like 20 bowling lanes. Having lived next door to the Polish Falcon for like
Struggling.
I'm
here.
getting the idea that there's a lot of bars connected to bowling alleys in Milwaukee. That's what I'm
There's a lot
gathering
of
from
bars.
this.
Basically, if there's like a building on the corner, it's a bar.
Okay.
I was in Milwaukee for like 3.5 hours, and when I left, I was like, this is an all right town.
Yeah.
I would come back to Milwaukee. The people were really nice. They let dogs in bars, and I played all kinds of games. I played
There's so many games.
yeah, I played pool. I don't think I actually bowled, but there was a bowling alley, and then I played the bar game, and then I played Dance Dance Revolution.
You were at Landmark.
Is that Landmark?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
yeah.
played DDR there too.
Yeah.
Up high.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. And this was like probably 4 years ago.
Okay, for me it was 10 years ago, but
Dude, let's go back. Let's do a reading tour.
I did that before, and the people that I went on the reading tour with who hadn't been there were flabbergasted by how great the community is there.
Yeah.
We went to one bar. It's not there anymore, but it was River Horse, and the bartender, who was the owner, was like, "Oh, you guys are on a book tour? I'll buy all your books. Oh, your drinks are on me." And it's just
Whoa.
like, yeah,
That guy rules.
it's a great town.
I want to go back to Milwaukee. My buddy from Chicago, he's from here, but he lived in Chicago. He moved back, so now I don't have like a real reason. I like to have a reason to go places, go see a friend or something like that.
Well, we'll set up a reading.
Let's set up a reading. Let's do this. Let's just
Bowling in words.
yeah. One. You know what? We should just do like a Midwestern reading tour.
So
That'd
we
be
did
fun.
that. We left from Baltimore and we did Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis. We called it. It was in January,
Oh, God.
so we called it the Bad Idea Book Tour.
Why the fuck did you guys do it in January?
I mean, that was when the book came out, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. We're just crazy enough, man. We were driving back from Milwaukee. Yeah, we were like, I don't know, maybe near Green Bay or something, and every car was just flying off the road. But my friend came with us, and he drove, and he was like the official driver. He wasn't reading or anything. It was actually Craig, whose cookbook I later published. He was our driver, sure-handed, and he navigated us. We were like the only people that didn't go off the road in a snowstorm.
Can we hire him for our next book tour?
Exactly.
I want Greg or Craig.
Craig. And he now just moved up to the North Woods of Wisconsin. So, yeah, a more trustworthy guide couldn't be found.
Can we read in Wisconsin? Because I've never been there.
Yeah, we could just do Wisconsin.
I want to do Milwaukee, so maybe just
That's
Milwaukee.
in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, duh. Wait, I have been to Wisconsin. I haven't been to the North
Sounds like
Woods.
somebody needs to watch Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, I need to. I'm like, I've never been to Wisconsin, though I'm sitting there talking about Milwaukee. I just figured Milwaukee was like its own state. It's like Milwaukee's like Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
in my mind. Yeah, I need to look at a map and go to the Midwest. It's been a while.
Can we name the tour Bad Idea 2, The Baddening?
I know, that's even better.
It's a totally bad name. That's why
Only
it works.
if we can make a movie poster of it.
The worsening.
The worsening?
Is that a thing? Is that a word?
Hey, let's
It can
all...
be
we
now.
We could worsen that up.
This all kind of reminds me of, and you mentioned it earlier, kind of the early days of marketing and online literary scene and how it was like just kind of finding new and interesting ways. I mean, and Publishing Genius was one of my influences when I started my first press, Safety Third, because everything you did had such a uniformity of cleanness to it, but then everything was so unique. And like that was one of the things I was like, okay, I want to somehow have a clear vision working with different artists and be able to portray that.
Yeah.
When you started publishing Genius, did you have like any like overall idea? I mean, because like back then it was kind of just like a Wild West of like whatever you do, just do it.
Yeah. No. And from publishing Genius, it still is. And sometimes I wonder if that's detrimental. But I think that it's always been just whatever was interesting to me at the time. And, you know, if you do a bunch of poetry books in a row, then you want to do a comic book or something. So that's sort of been my guiding principle is like, what will sustain my interest for the 4 months that I'm going to be concentrating on a project.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to be involved with it because you're taking someone artist is trusting you with their passion, and you have to match that passion.
Yeah, well, not just that, but you have to like. That has been the biggest factor for me. I remember the first time I asked a person for a book, and it was Mairead Byrne, and she was a poet that I just really admired, and she had a book. She had a couple books. One of her books, Talk Poetry, just blew my mind. So good. Everything about poetry that I loved. And so I was like, I would love to publish a book by this person. And she went to AWP, which is that big writers conference. And I went to her panel, and she was doing a panel on like writing across the continents, like being an immigrant poet or something.
Oh, wow.
She's from Ireland. So it was so funny because this is that was the panel. And of course, like as soon as there's a Q&A, someone raises their hand. It's this like senior citizen is like, I believe I have a book that would work really well across the ocean. How can I get that published? You know, because like everybody just wants to get their own work published. Anyway, I went up to her after the panel was over, and I was shaking, and I like handed her the chapbook. Like I think I'd published like 2 or 3 chapbooks by this point, which was a long time. I mean, that was like a year of being around. It took me that long to do a few chapbooks, and I shakingly handed her this chapbook and introduced myself and told her how much I liked her work. And then a couple months later, I emailed her and said, "Can I do you have a manuscript, just anything at all that I could put out?" Because it wasn't like I needed to publish like the next National Book Award winner or whatever. I just really wanted to work with these people. And so she gave me basically a year's worth of blog posts as a book, which I mean was huge. And like all of it she could have called it and made it into like a traditional poetry book, but she wanted to do something different. And anyway, once she entrusted me with that, I was like, I can never shut the press down now. Like she's a tenured professor at a very good school, and like I feel like her reputation is now in my hands as like whatever. That's not true, but I felt like it then. It's
a huge honor.
Well, you're obligated. You feel obligated to make sure you do a good job with it.
Yeah, and not just that, but what I'm saying is like never. I have to just keep the press alive now, because who wants their book to come out and then like 2 years later the press isn't around anymore or whatever? You can't buy the book or whatever. I mean, like, I understand a book has to go out of print at some point, and that's not that terrible, but I felt like I had a responsibility to the writers to make Publishing Genius as good as it could possibly be, and to make it something that can be sustainable. And then another thing that happened like that was Sean Lovelace. Like, he's like, I need to get this book out because I need to turn it in for tenure. I'm like, I'm just a little kid, Like, you can't be relying on me in this project for your tenure, but you really can. And it's like we're playing with, as they say on the West Wing, we're playing with live ammo here. And I just from then on have kept the press going in whatever way I can make it interesting to myself. So that the people I publish feel like their careers are, in safe hands, which is pretty. Does that sound like arrogant or
no? Not at all. I mean, I think back to like just, especially in those early days of internet literary community, where it's like I would reach out to someone through their blog spot and be like, I really love the work that you're doing.
Days.
Yeah, and then be like, can I put a chapbook of yours out? And it's like, I don't even know this person, and they're just like, yeah, let's work on that together.
Yeah,
and it's just like, it was just always amazing to me that someone would just be like almost complete stranger that you only know them by their username. And you're just like, yes, I want to trust you with my art,
right,
and projecting it out there.
Right. That's how this second most recent book came out, which is also interestingly the same size, very small pocket-sized book, like Matt Cook's is the one I was just talking about. That's 4x6, and this one's also 4x6, but they're not at all like a series or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this book is amazing.
This book right here?
Yes, I've read I haven't read all of it. This is the one that I talk about we talk about this book on the podcast, like in the very first few episodes.
Really?
Of the girl that lives by a shopping mall in the rural part, and she's teaching English people that don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And that is fucking amazing.
Right. We're talking about The Aleatory Abyss by Evelyn Hampton.
Yes.
And it is amazing.
Isn't there a hardcover of this?
And it reminds me, there is a hardcover
I need
version.
that in my life.
Yeah,
I'm gonna order it right now. Keep talking. I'm sorry.
It's expensive. It's $30,
don't
but
give a fuck.
all of the
I want
money
3
is
of
going to support the Fang Collective, which is an organization that's trying to bring awareness to climate change.
Okay.
And the way this book came out was Evelyn emailed me and wanted to put it on Real Pants, which is the blog that I run, sort of the blog component of Publishing Genius. And I thought it's too long. It's like 10,000 words long. No one's going to read that on the internet. It's the same way that a Jello horse came to Publishing Genius. You remember about a Jello horse?
Oh yeah,
Matt?
I do.
That was huge in the pre-2009 days of small press publishing. And that book published 750. I sold 750 copies of that book, something like that, over the years. I mean, it was just like I printed 200 copies, and I used 48-hour books. You could print a book in 2 days.
Oh wow!
And they would you'd order the book on Monday, you'd have it on Friday. Mm-hmm. So I printed 100 copies that way. Of course, it cost twice as much as anything else, but I didn't know at the time. So I printed 200 copies. I'd sell them out, and I'd buy another 100 copies, and I realized that if I just didn't go out to the bar on the weekend, I could afford to put out somebody's book. So.
See, I wish I would have been smarter about that. I was still going out to the bar, but I was also hand putting together everything. So it's let's do a second pressing. Oh God, I don't want to do a second pressing.
Right. So I learned quickly that I have no talent for staple stitching chapbooks. I mean, I eventually got a long arm stapler, and that kind of made things easier. But so I realized that for a few $100s, it really wasn't even that much more expensive. I could get them printed, and that was when I stopped making chapbooks. But I mean, yours were always super beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And you didn't put out your own, but it's got the. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. It's the best title of all chapbooks.
Oh,
congratulations. There's no last place if everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
I was just a random thought I had when I saw that image that's on the front of it of all of the imagery in that chapbook was taken from Brian Manley, who did your Blackout Poetry book.
Yeah.
He took all of this clip art books that are used to make Christian tracts. They're you're going to hell. That's and awesome. He took a skull from some hell scene and then put it on people's faces as they were going through the finish line. And when I saw that was the first thing I said, and I was like, that's what we're calling the chapbook.
That's I want to see this clip art, because you mentioned this to me a couple weeks ago, and now I really just want to see all of it. And I'm sorry that I sound slightly distracted, because I'm actually ordering 2 copies of the hardcover. Is it The Aleatory Abyss?
I say aleatory, but it's because I'm from upstate New York.
Aleatory?
So aleatory?
I don't even care. I read about...
It means chance, by something that happens by chance.
I read about 75%.
Thanks everybody for listening while we order things on the internet.
Yeah, I'm going to order this book, but I think, what, I'm thinking about it, and I believe it was the first podcast.
Yeah,
at the very, very end, I'm rambling, and I start rambling about this book, because I had seen it on your website, and I read about 75% of it, and I kept meaning to go back, and then as soon as you brought it up, I feel oh, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Adam brought over cocktails, and they're wonderful. And I just got her super fucking excited, because I loved this woman's writing. Where's she from?
She's such a good writer.
Where's she at now?
Well, now she's in the Pacific Northwest. I want to say I don't know. What are some towns up there? I don't know. One of them.
Portland.
Maybe it's
Seattle,
Portland, or Seattle. I don't know, but
woods.
So that's where she wrote that from. Yeah, and she's somebody that I knew back in. I didn't know, but like we emailed a lot back in the day. She ran a journal. I think it only had one issue, but I bought a copy, and so like, after she sent this to me and she introduced herself very nicely, and I was like, but your name is familiar. And I just searched my Google, and like we had all of these emails, like all of her purchase history from Publishing Genius books.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and my purchase history of her journal. She was like giving away honey from the farm that she was living on or something if you bought a copy of her journal.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so.
I always love, especially early on, like putting random things in orders and like little things to add on.
Yeah.
It's like the smallness of the community was just so awesome.
I think you had like Yo MTV rap cards in some of your books too.
Yeah, I bought like a whole box, like 2 cases worth of those on eBay for like $5.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm happy to announce that I have just bought 2 hardcover copies from the Aleatory Abyss. I really loved this, and sometimes I read things and I just don't like them, and I don't say that I don't like them. I don't talk about them, but when I read this, I think you might have posted it or something, and
it's free on Real Pants.
Yeah, and I just read it and I was like, man, this is fucking awesome. And I don't know why I didn't buy it that day, but I really enjoyed it. And I think the main thing was it was very dry and heartbreaking.
So heartbreaking.
But funny.
Yeah.
Like, she had a sense of humor about the depressive state that she was in. And
well, it's not funny, but that's what you're experiencing there is just good writing. That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Like, when something is so well done, you kind of laugh and you're like, oh, yeah. That's what I like.
Yeah.
And like that response is like joy.
And yeah, definitely. The thing that caught me about it was it just felt like somebody was just kind of like writing in their journal, kind of rambling about nothing.
Yeah.
But it was so captivating that I just kept reading. I was like, my God, I think I got to like chapter like 15 or something.
Yeah, which is saying a lot because it's not easy to read.
Yeah, I loved it.
It's not like a page turner or anything, but there is like that part about the people who live in a bunker in the mall, a parking lot, and that, it's almost a page turner.
Yeah. I'm excited about it.
Well, thanks so much for buying. I think that will be the sale that like puts us over into like profit world.
Yeah,
and now I can start
nice.
giving the money to Fan Collective.
No, I literally, I remember reading it, and then a few months later we had the first podcast. I ramble about it. If you go to like the last 5 minutes, it's just me like, let me find the fucking title of this book. I can't find it, and I'm like, it's a blog post.
That's
or
so
something.
cool.
And
That
then
is awesome.
and then you bust it out. It's like fucking full circle here. So now I've got it coming.
Yeah, the hardcover with full color images. All these images here on the back, sort of like, there's more in the hardcover, but they're like so the conceit of the book is almost like mundaneness or
very much
the world is passing away, and so these photos are also kind of capture that. So,
and she's writing about it in a post-Trump election.
Yeah, she's really grappling with that.
Yeah, she's like super fucked up about that. She's kind of fucked up in a lot of ways about a lot of different things, and that has this kind of looming narrative. And I think we all can kind of agree with that, at least those of us who didn't vote for Donald Trump. But I think
even people who did are still trying to process things in a way that like is kind of fucked up. Yeah.
I felt like myself and other people, like-minded to me, they were. I felt like it was very hazy. It was kind of like
the like inauguration era thing.
Yeah, like after Trump won, you just felt really hazy. Like, really, did I just wake up from a bad dream? It's like when the Falcons lost the Super Bowl when they should have won.
Man. Yeah,
like you just didn't want to like think or talk about it.
You know what has become
weeks?
really not hazy, has become poignant for me is like the first hour that I'm awake every day, and I just like get my phone out and I just look at the news, and I'm like so clear-eyed about all this bullshit that's happening, And then I go about my day, and I'm like. And by this point, it's even like, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. He's not going to get impeached. Like this, it doesn't matter that everybody in the White House is using their own smartphones or whatever, and Jared Kushner uses private email servers. Like that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's bizarre that.
So now I'm just So now I'm back to that haziness again.
Can I tell you? Can I give you some advice on what you might want to watch when you wake up in the morning?
Woodworking videos.
Woodworking videos sound very therapeutic. Like videos about baby goats. They are so goddamn cute.
I hear they can jump and stuff.
Yeah, they do like a little kick.
Yeah. Baby goat videos.
My friends in Wisconsin have goats.
You just need to move to Wisconsin, man. Or just at least we need to go there on a book tour.
Yeah.
Baby goat videos, and then highlight videos of your sport of choice.
Yep.
So for me, it's like...
And you're saying, like, don't look at the Apple News app.
Don't do that. Why? You know it's going to be terrible.
See, I've always been a news junkie. Like, that's been, like, the thing I do the first thing when I wake up, like, probably since I got the internet.
Just watch, like, Facebook or Instagram stories. They're not cool.
I like to watch those too.
Yeah, but it's like it's better. I try my best. My actual goal in the day is to not read the news. And then what happens is about like 2 o'clock, I'm just like CNN.com. Let's just see what's going on. And then, today I'll check CNN and ESPN. And today I was like, let's check out ESPN. And then it's like I find out that the coach of my childhood favorite basketball team in college has just been indicted in an FBI case for being a scumbag. Rick Pitino.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
he got fired, right?
He is on like some sort of
fired.
They haven't fired him per se. The last time I checked, I mean, maybe news moves fast. So, but I just don't want to read that shit. I'm like, Rick Pitino, I want to think about you and like winning a championship in like '95, not like you banging strippers in 2003. So I don't know. I just try not to watch it. I mean, I know that that's not reality, and this is probably unhealthy for me to do this, but that's how I feel.
And we each have our own way.
Yeah, and you're not going to be... I don't know about Rick Pitino. I don't know about that story, and I never will.
Like, I'm not going to ESPN.com. What news station do you read? Or you said the Apple app, but I mean, do you have like a certain news channel that you trust that you feel like is the one?
Well, yeah, I mean, the New York Times. Like, I just feel like that's pretty reliable. And lately I've been listening to the Daily. Have you listened to this podcast?
No.
If you're a news junkie, you'll enjoy the Daily. It's just basically David Barbaro, I think is his name, interviews one of the reporters from the Times about, basically the main story of the day. So every day you get a really deep dive, just a one-on-one interview between the host of the show and that journalist about what, of course the story is going to be like pretty interesting story.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like not the most, it's not even the most like sexy story or whatever. It's not the one
That's what I look for in my political news.
Well, I mean, you want to
Maybe
listen
that's
to
why we're here.
Like there's the one that's like the takedown of Trump because of calling out the NFL or whatever. And then there's the takedown of Trump because he added 2 more countries to the banning to the ban.
Yeah.
Like the ban one, that's just kind of like a little bit above our heads or whatever. But then the NFL one, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I mean by sexy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like the ban one is serious
Yeah.
and affects people's lives and it's insane. But the NFL one is just like stupid and meaningless. But it's the one that we're all just like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Don't you realize they are respecting the flag?
I feel like I think it was yesterday. I feel like that was all I saw on Facebook was this like fucking NFL posts.
I mean, I posted a great video about a guy, an old white guy explaining it to Trump, and I thought it was, pretty spot on. It's just, it is important, but
It is important.
It's
It
not,
definitely is, yeah.
It is just a little bit.
I just hate how it's kind of becoming
zeitgeisty.
static. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's like this. Okay, we're at the NFL static week. And then
Right.
what's going to be the static of next week where it's the thing for like 2 days and then it's just part of the wallpaper of our day.
Right.
I mean, I just can't believe that this guy has done so much crazy shit and he doesn't get in trouble for any of it. It's almost kind of amazing. I almost have to give the guy credit for being so slippery that he can just run his mouth nonstop.
Well, do you
for
think
a year.
that? Do you think that would be? Do you think he would get away with it in the same way 10 years ago? And I'm not talking about if he were.
God, I'd hope not.
if he were George W. Bush instead, or Obama, if he were Reagan or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just remember like thinking about like how much trouble they would get into on the West Wing for some really like highbrow misunderstanding, and then it would just seem like everybody was like on doing damage control because like they said like a slightly complicated thing, and now with like Trump, it's like grab him by whatever, and everybody's like, no, that's locker room talk. But I saw a cool tweet from the NFL league spokesperson who said that like that his tweets have led to some really interesting conversations among the players and the owners, and that's real locker room talk.
That's cool.
Great.
That's a good way to take that. I mean, it's the whole political landscape has just basically degraded itself. Like reporters they have a hard time covering everything because it's no longer talk about policy.
Right.
I mean, that's what the whole campaign was. It was about personality over policy.
I wonder if I can find this great section where she writes about Trump. She just basically calls him a sad old man. I can't find it in dead air amount of time, so I won't keep looking.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I found that earlier, like when I was flipping through it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, anyway, it's from the Aleatory Abyss, and I couldn't find it. Then, so other books that I've come out with recently are Paula Boehmer's Mystery and Mortality. I guess that would be the third most recent. It's a collection of essays on the sad, short gift of life.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like the title.
I love the way the artwork was done for that cover and even that spine.
Yeah. Right. So the spine, like the words are flipped. So I thought it looked really nice.
Who does your design work?
I do most of it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I did these four here.
I didn't know that about you. I didn't know you were a designer too.
Well, I mean, it's just self-taught, but that's what I do by trade now too.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, my work is as a publishing consultant, so I help people get their books into the world, and that would be like a retired person that like always had a book in them, and they want to put it out, and even if it's just like friends and family are going to read it.
Yeah.
So I'll and that's great because they pay me to do what I've always been doing and paying to do through Publishing Genius. But like, so that's how I fund Publishing Genius, basically. So
it's a great circle of life there.
Yeah, right.
Is that your full-time job?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so so basically I help them through the entire publishing process, and I help them like, basically so that they don't have to hire me again the next time.
Yeah.
So if like people that work with me, I teach them everything they need to know. But a lot of times the clients, when I started, they were just people who didn't know how to upload the PFDs,
Yeah.
because they're kind of old or whatever, not too good at computers. But nowadays, I've got clients that are, like other small presses and local businesses that are just doing a catalog or like 100-year retrospective and that sort of thing. I'm working on a project right now that's a 100-year anniversary book for a golf course, and it's like fascinating because 100 years ago. I don't know. 100 years ago, golf seems kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like in 1917.
Yeah.
They were like, they cut the golf course out of the trees, and they like, it was all like horses. They used horses to like pull the trees out and all that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I always like to learn things about what I'm working on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you learn a whole lot through that process.
Yeah. If you actually read the books.
How many books have been released through Publishing Genius?
By now it's over 50.
And how many years have you been doing this for now?
Almost 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I mean,
it's been like what? You usually do like 5 a year, something like that?
Yeah, although last year I think I just did one. I just did that the Stephen Dixon book here, which is a novella by Stephen Dixon called Beatrice, and that was the only one I did last year because the year before I totally burned myself out. I did I think I did 6 books and then 3 like special ebooks, and
wow,
I just and I moved and everything. I think, so like I kind of got.
Do you guys ever just like get the urge just to, maybe this is makes them crazy, but I want to write like a really quick chapbook. I want to write like 20 stories in like a week, or like 20 stories in 24 hours, and just be like, this is it, and then like have somebody edit it and just be done with it. I feel like that would be interesting.
Why even have somebody edit it, you asshole?
That's a good point. Can we name the book You Asshole?
Like, I want to write everything in like a couple hours, and then have somebody pour out their soul over it, trying to carve it into something beautiful.
Oh, I don't mean like that. I mean, like, for me, my editing is like, just take out the commas that I shouldn't have put in there.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm very like, don't like edit me. Like, just punctuation.
Yeah,
So you wouldn't want that note of just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
No, fuck
Awkward.
that. No, I don't want to be that asshole. It's like, give this a once over and remove the commas. Not like,
once over.
Don't like. I don't need you to shape this thing. Like,
Let the madness stay, but take out the illiteracy. if
Exactly.
possible.
I use too many or too little commas.
Wow, that's a great blurb. John Carroll writes with all the madness, but none of the illiteracy.
Exactly. I felt like my first chapbook. That's pretty much what it was. So, hey. Well, let's make this happen. I want to do this. 2018. Does anyone have a van?
I would be a totally different person if I had a van.
Somebody has a van.
Yeah, well, Davey Miner has a van.
Yes, he
We
does.
can borrow his van. Put all the seats back in it. Who's the fourth reader?
I just want to be on a skateboard behind it. I'll hold on to the bumper. And that's the worsening part.
I feel like
I'm going to hold on to the bumper on a skateboard.
I feel like
whole
the
way.
promo for it should be like a mock-up of like European Vacation.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Adam can be like standing on top of like the wrecked van, holding a bunch of books.
Right, holding books. Oh, that's what the cover is. You're right.
I want to go on a reading tour again. That was a lot of fun. It's been, as of next year, it'll be 5 years.
Yeah, well, we learned a valuable lesson in that tour to plan out booking a little better.
Yeah, definitely.
We booked it in like, I don't know, 7 days because we were like, how fast can we book a tour?
So how many shows was it?
5, and half of them were good, and like 2 of them were awesome, 2 of them sucked, and 1 was okay.
I feel like that's like what you can count on. Like even if you plan it 4 months in advance or something.
You're probably right. I mean,
I remember when we did our bad idea book tour, we had that thing where it's like you're reading for 2 people, and there was more people on the tour than there were in the room.
Yeah.
It was in Madison, and it was like a guy who thought that like for some reason he thought that like we were going to be talking about like the history of the Navy or something. So it was irredeemable, but it was one of those things where we were going to have the reading at a friend's house, and the friends with the kids. I mean, and by kids I mean goats. We're going to have a reading at their house,
kids.
but then one of the guys on the tour got a hold of somebody at a bookstore and said, yeah, you can do it at this bookstore. And if we'd had it at the house, it would have been like 10 people there and everybody would have been comfortable and having a good time. Instead, we did it at like this really fine used bookstore for a Navy guy.
we had a similar deal in Asheville. There was like an old lady and like one of my ex-girlfriends from like when I was 21.
Yeah, that's awkward.
There was an opener, and the opener looked like he came and read.
He just got off he was on his lunch break from the bar.
And so he still had like the towel in the back of his belt, and he got up there and read, and there was like 20 people there
for him.
And then he read, and when he left, he took 18 of those people.
Right, because he was going back to the bar. They could finally get a drink again.
Yeah. And we were like, this is terrible, but let's do this, guys. Let's plan. Yeah. Let's plan as best we can.
The worst is when, like, I've done readings where, like, I drove 4 hours because somebody asked me to be on the reading. Like they were, like we were traveling together, and you get there and they didn't do it. There was, for some reason, there's no one there.
Yeah,
and like you didn't want to do it in the first place. And it's I've been on so many bad ones like that. But then I don't know. Are there like the good ones?
We had two good ones. What are the good ones? We had 2 good ones. We had a good ones, and we had a good.
I mean, they outshine the bad ones so much.
I mean, we got to read in Flannery
That's what it
Connor's
is.
Childhood Home. That was pretty rad, and the reading was good. We had like 30 people there. It was awesome, and I couldn't believe that they let us in the door, let alone let us read. So I mean, it was. So yeah, there are some diamonds in the rough there. It sounds like you haven't had those, though.
No, I'm sure I have. I'm sure I have.
I still like the one time I saw you read the one year at the Letters Festival. You read the after party at Manuals.
Yeah,
Kinda,
that used to be as good as every reading. I always was that good.
Mm-hmm.
So are you not as good now?
I haven't read in a while. I feel like I haven't
We're gonna book you. We're gonna do a Lit&Bruised reading soon.
Put my money where my mouth is.
Are you ready to read?
I'm working on a novel.
Okay.
Nice.
You gonna read from the novel?
Let's
We're gonna
bring it
book
out.
you. First Lit&Bruised reading. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. We're gonna book you.
All right.
Get
Well,
ready.
that reading that I did after that thing, there was like a karaoke happening next door, and I really thrive in environments that are not conducive to literary readings, as I think everyone does, because they're probably not at the literary reading. But yeah, if you could arrange to have like a band playing right next door or something.
Oh, we could do that.
But I think at that reading, the book flew out of my hand at the end, and I was just like, "That's how you know you're done."
I've seen you read before. Did you read a story about hanging out at a mall once?
That doesn't. Oh, yeah. You know what I did was it for Scott Dottridge's book release party. I read a thing about because his book was something about going to malls or something.
It was basically about being just disgruntled youth.
So I wrote a story about every time I went to the mall.
Yeah, I remember it. It was really funny, and I liked it. It's the first and only time I've ever seen you read.
That was a good time.
I enjoyed that.
Thank you. That's pretty good that you remember.
Did you bring that piece with you today to read for us?
No.
Can you recite it from memory?
I wrote that specifically for the reading. I like to do that. When somebody's doing a book launch party, because do you remember at that reading, some other very accomplished writer read a very nice but heartbreaking story about a 3-year-old that had been kidnapped and stuff.
Jesus.
And it was very long. Do you remember
I
this?
blocked that out of my memory.
Yeah.
I do remember. I mean, I was at.
I'm like, bro, this is a release party for that guy's book. It's a celebratory event, and no one wants to hear this really.
Yeah, horrific thing.
Yeah, so anyway, I was talking to a friend who has a child, and he was like, readings at 7:00 are the best time, or maybe saying that was the worst time.
I like them at 8 because there's no traffic, and then you're not gonna be out too late.
This is Atlanta. You got to plan around the traffic for a reading.
Yeah, if it's 8, it's perfect. Traffic's done about 7. You can get in there. It's done by at least 10. You can get on with your night, or you can just go home and go to bed. So.
Get on with your night. In Baltimore, there was this one reading that was at 5:30 or 5:10. It was called the 5:10 series, and it was amazing. Michael Kimball and Jen Mikowski coordinated it. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and they brought in people from like people that we love and would die to see, and it was went for years. And at the same night, every time there was a reading at 8:00 called the IE series, which was run by a guy named Michael Ball, who's passed away. But his series. He brought in the same thing, same caliber, but poets. So the 5:10 was pretty much just fiction, and the IE series was poets. And you go to the 5:10, and they would always, it was at 5:10 p.m. and it'd be over by 6:30, and then they'd be like, well, then we go down to the bar down the street and hang out, and 25 people would just show up at the bar down the street, and it was very comfortable. It was a big bar, you could put tables together. It was fine. Okay, and then I hate going to bars with big groups of people.
Yeah, it's I always split off from the check.
Yeah, so did I. I always kind of did that too. But then at 8:00, the other series would start, and it'd be so hard to drag myself away to get to that other reading. But that was just the way.
Was this weekly or monthly?
Monthly, once a month. Yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes I didn't pull myself away because of the first reading was so much fun, but then when I did, I was always just blown away by how much. And then when that 8:00 reading would end, because Michael Ball's series, he would basically start about an hour late. There'd be 1 or 2 readers, and then he'd have an hour-long intermission, and everybody would just be standing in the alley smoking, and then there'd be the last 2 readers, and everybody would hang out for another hour, and then everybody would make their way to the bar.
That's a really tight-knit community to be able to have kind of such a loosely structured.
People, yeah, well, I mean, you know how it is. There was 25 people there, and some would leave and come back or whatever.
Where was this? Was this Baltimore?
Yeah, this is Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a great scene. They still do, but it's totally always changing and everything.
Did you guys used to smoke cigarettes?
I used to.
You used to smoke?
Oh, yeah. I was 2 packs a day for a long time.
Man, I miss smoking. I quit like 3 years ago. Man, I miss cigarettes.
I went to the oral surgeon today, and he asked me if I smoked. You want to see my skin tag?
Oh, in the back, right?
Yeah.
Is that from smoking?
No, but he asked if it was from smoking.
Yeah.
I was like, I hope not. Like, is that cancer? Do I have cancer? I don't
When did
know.
you quit?
I quit on my wedding day.
When was that?
Which was a year and a few months ago.
Dude, I wish smoking was like taking your vitamins.
I mean, I was never like, if it was taking your vitamins, I guess I would have been fairly regular, but I wouldn't have been like,
Yeah.
if it was like taking your vitamins, you'd smoke 2 cigarettes a day, and then you would just still smoke.
But I mean, I wish it was like
I kind of wish it was like
awesome.
smoking.
But there's a vitamin B vape pens now.
Hey,
So we're there.
hey, we are. But I miss smoking cigarettes. I was in England a couple weeks ago for a book release, and my editor said, "Do you want a cigarette?" And I said, "Why not? You know, I'm in England, put out a book, rock and roll, baby." I didn't say rock and roll, baby. I really didn't. But I put the cigarette in my mouth. It was like a shorty. I don't know what they're called now. And I smoked it, and I was like halfway through this short cigarette, and I was like, "This is a bad idea." But I kept smoking it, and then the next day I felt like shit. I remember like smoking like a pack a day and just feeling awesome about it. And then, you hit your 30s.
How did that cigarette taste?
It was fine. I mean, you smoke cigarettes for a decade and drink whiskey. I mean, nothing really tastes that bad,
I mean, I had one for like the first time in like 7 years. I think it was like last year.
Was it so delicious?
No, it was not. which I love to smoke like Black and Milds and Swisher Sweets on occasion. So I thought maybe it's like, all right. And I was in the middle of kind of like an anxiety attack, and I was listening to the new Sun Kill Moon record, and so I was with someone, and I was like, let me just have that cigarette, just something to kind of help me through this moment.
Smoke.
And it was just like I had like 3 puffs, and I was just like, no, this I tasted
What do you think about,
disgusting.
like, can you get to the point where, like, well, Matt, John, now that you've done that.
3 cigarettes, and it's like normal again.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude. I mean, that was my thing.
3 cigarettes in like a night, or like 3 cigarettes in a year?
3 cigarettes in like an hour, and that shit tastes magical again.
Oh, really?
But I mean, I just don't go there. I mean, I can't do it. It makes me feel so terrible.
All right,
Like,
let's change the subject.
Yeah. Hey, we got packs of smokes here? We doing this tonight? We all smoking a cigarette?
You guys know my friend Greg Murray. He used to smoke.
Yeah, we got Greg Murray
On
in the
sofa.
house from...
So you wanted to put out these chapbooks in 2018, but I'm already busy in 2018 because I've got an announcement to make, and that is that Greg runs a literary journal here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's called Musée. It's now in its 5th issue.
It's a wonderful journal. I love it. Yeah, we were at the last little party they did over there.
Yeah, I don't get to make it to the parties. I usually am out of town, but
Yeah, you were there. You were mixing drinks.
So what is this announcement?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was there.
Yeah.
So Greg and I are going to sort of like partner up here for like joining forces. So Greg's literary journal and publishing genius, which is going to continue to be a book press, will like sort of be like, and we're kind of simpatico, aesthetically and everything. Yeah. So like we are just sort of figuring out what that relationship's going to be. But can we get Greg up on the mic? Can I bring one of those chairs over?
Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
Greg's sexy.
I mean, why not? Greg, you're ruining the worsening.
Am I?
Oh,
Yeah, Greg is.
Oh no!
Greg, what's up, man?
Oh man, I woefully unprepared.
You were chilling
To be up at the
You didn't
mic.
like my segue.
You were chilling
talking
on the
about
couch, man. It was.
quitting
I was
awesome.
chilling. I was fighting back the urge to start smoking cigarettes again, like pack a day.
Oh, did you quit too? Are you
Yeah.
quit? Yeah.
I'm sorry for the enabling conversation.
No, I remember it is kind of gross.
When'd you quit?
Almost a year ago.
Congratulations.
Just after my wedding.
Yeah.
He quit.
Something
Well,
about
Adam
that time.
told me to read the book, The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. And so I read that book.
So what is the easy way?
I want to say though, so The Easy Way is a book by, I think his name is Alan Carr, and it's just like hypnotizes you by being such a poorly written book. But it does like kind of go through all of the different reasons that you have for smoking, and it says that basically quitting smoking isn't hard. The only thing you have to do to quit smoking is don't smoke, right? Running a marathon is hard because you have to like do something, but to quit smoking, you just don't smoke. And here's all the reasons that you say you want to smoke, and it's because you're like stressed out. Well, actually, nicotine like raises your blood pressure or whatever, so you're more stressed out. Or you smoke because you're bored. Well, whatever. He demythologizes all of those ideas, and it took me like, and when you're reading it, he says to keep smoking, like don't quit until you finish the book. So I'm like, it took me about 2.5 months to read that book, and
you're sitting there smoking. Should I read this today?
Yeah, no, I had like 2 pages left, and I would like just I bought a pack of cigarettes, and so I was like, well, now I have to wait another week to like till these cigarettes are gone, and I like literally realized I had like a third of a page left, and I had a cigarette left, so I lit that cigarette, I read that page, and closed the book and threw the cigarette out the window, and went to the bar with my friends, and they all stood outside smoking. I had no problem at all. Like, I was
shit,
like, I'm totally fine.
Did you throw the book out the window too?
Yeah, and there's like, and then you hear this cat go, and then somebody pounded on the top of an ambulance, and it drove away.
So, Greg, what was your whole story with? Did you wait till the end of the book?
Yeah, so I'll let you tell the story.
Well, it was interesting that you guys started talking about like whether you should, like what it was like Matt after you had waited 7 years, because the book like asks you to kind of do that as a thought experiment. It's like, okay, now take out a cigarette, and you're already like getting brainwashed while you're reading. You're like, actually, I probably don't need one. I could let this moment pass without having one. But you do, and you take it and you light it up, and then it's like, it tastes like shit, doesn't it? Just taste that. And then you're like, it does. Like, my body doesn't want this. This is actually gross. And so it like brainwashes you, but actually it is kind of right. Like,
yeah, it's basically slowly convincing you. That's what it kind of sounds
and
like.
it reminds you of when you first started smoking and how you didn't like it and how it was hard for your body to do it.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, yeah, that's true. It is gross.
First time I smoked a cigarette, I threw up. I mean, the first time I inhaled, because like my brother had to like teach me, like it took practice to.
Yeah, the first few that I had, and I don't know, I guess you just do it because you think it's cool or something, and the next thing you know, you wake up and it's like 10 years later.
I know.
And you're like, what have I done with my life?
I didn't realize I was a smoker for 15 years.
Yeah.
Do you guys know that painting of Van Gogh, The Morning After? And it's a guy lying off his bed, and there's like a spilled wine glass, and he looks like a piece of shit. That's how
you felt?
Yeah.
Is that a real painting by Van Gogh?
Mm-hmm. It's really good.
So, Publishing Genius and Muse working together, is there going to be like a combined name? Because I just think of, like, I think with Everyday Genius.
Well, what would you got in mind?
Publishing Muse.
That's gross.
I'm just saying.
Well, our
Genius A?
Our
Yeah.
workspace was Muse P.
Which I feel like is a great name.
So
P?
Publishing Muse is gross, but Muse P is not. Fuck
Muse
you guys.
P sounds like a rapper name, and Publishing
Yeah.
Muse seems like Daryl Hannah in 1987.
That
Muse
sounds
P's hot
awesome.
on the street.
Daryl Hannah in 87, man?
What if you just took the slash?
I guess what I mean. What do I mean by that?
Was that sexist?
Can I unpack
No, I don't
this?
think so.
Is that a sexist whistling like that?
No?
Daryl Hannah, she's gorgeous,
Yeah.
and she's wonderful. I loved her.
I don't
and-
think anybody had an objection to that.
Yeah, I know.
Any
I
of us
just-
four men.
I know,
Yeah.
exactly.
No problem.
4 white
It's
dudes.
just-
Hey, she was awesome in Kill Bill. Just gonna throw that out there.
So, I assume this is going to be a print endeavor?
No, so we're not sure. I mean, it's going to be a lot of shared services. So we're talking about like we're going to move instead of Greg. See, here's the thing. It seems to me that like a lot of times small presses start up and then they like go away after a couple of years or something. And I was sad to see Lazy Fascist went away this week. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah.
They were kind of using the print on demand model really well.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wrote an amazing goodbye note explanation of why the press was closing. And I think it's Cameron Pierce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cameron Pierce ran this great small press called Lazy Fascist and published a lot of really important books. And like stuff.
Sam Pink, Brian Allen Carr, so many.
So, yeah, and going back to like 10 years, so he kept it up. And he just felt like he was supporting Amazon. So there's why the print on demand model that kind of doesn't work.
I can see that.
Anyway, that is not what I'm talking about when I say that I see a lot of small presses or literary endeavors start up and then kind of fade away after a little while. But what I often think should happen is that they should just partner up, because especially when they're sharing an aesthetic, they should. Sorry, Matt. So Greg and I are sharing a mic now, and we're just driving Matt crazy because, like, hopefully you can hear me. I don't even know.
No, it
I'm
sounds
screaming
good.
into the void again.
It's not driving me crazy, but it will on editing.
Yeah,
that will drive me crazy.
This will drive you crazy.
John tried to offer Greg a mic.
So then we'd have to share then.
Oh, I'm not talking right now.
Oh, you're not talking right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just let me just ramble here.
Okay, let's just ramble. Let's have that.
So when I see like all these like great literary endeavors, and I understand that everybody wants to have their project, and like you're doing this thankless task because you have like a creative vision, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to do something, and like it doesn't matter that. It doesn't really matter. Well, nothing really matters. But when I see a lot of small presses start up or literary endeavors start up in the same world they're like good friends and stuff, I'm like, why didn't you guys just do a thing together? You know what I mean? Because like, why are you spending $1,000 and you're spending $1,000?
Y'all can each be spending $500.
Yeah, and it's
easier.
like, how hard will it be to like sort of mesh your creative visions in order to make something that's like more sustainable? And like when it's more sustainable, like people who kind of care about the literary world but don't really, they're going to see something that lasts, right? Because like I've had my feelings hurt by supporting small presses that went out of business or whatever. Anyway, whatever. What I'm saying is that like Greg paying a bunch of money for a submittable account or paying for hosting and me paying for hosting, like website hosting, like why not just like we both sort of share those sort of costs?
Yeah.
And then like Greg is friggin' amazing at sending MailChimp emails. I don't know if you've seen these things, but like, he like sends one every time a new issue comes out. It's funny. It's not too long. It's like, it actually makes me want to read it. And if you're anything like me, you get about 1 million emails in your email inbox every day. Like I would just spend like every time I come back to like look at my Gmail, I just have to delete like 7 emails. Literally, like every time, like every 2 hours, I'm deleting 7 emails. I'm like, how'd you get my inbox? I don't know. My email address is adamrobinson@gmail with like none of the dots or whatever. So like I get every Adam Robinson's emails come to me.
Well, I would assume you'd also get so many because you have so many different addresses that have been on websites. So I'm sure those have been scraped by bots. Like
Right. So I'm just getting inundated with this stuff. But I get one from Greg, and I'm like, I could get about 5 more of those. But he only sends them really when he's like open for submissions or like sending out a new.
And that's the way to do it.
Journal. So anyway, I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. I need somebody like that to keep me motivated, and so I think he's going to do that. And also like having Muse, who's publishing like really innovative, really amazing stuff, like essays and poetry, stuff that like that if you're like ready to sit down and grapple with some serious thinking, like that's the journal to be reading. So I'm like, yeah, I want to put that with Publishing Genius. So
nice.
That's where I'm coming from with it.
Where are you coming from, Greg?
Well, Adam basically designed and published the first print issue anyway. So he
and the logo. I remember when Amelia Gray was in town for the Letters Festival, and we were like, we need a slash in that.
Yeah.
She was like breaking you down because like, is it like the French word for museum?
Well, and Amelia also was making fun of it because I'd already decided, and then I'd gotten the Library of Congress ISBN, and I was still working on logo stuff, which at the time was like your pet project. You were like making 1 million logos for Real Pants. And so you were like, what about this one? What about these colors? And I'm like, okay.
What about these colors? That sounds like me.
And you had selected that yellow color for the background of Real Pants, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, Amelia was like, well, I think Muse is a really pretentious title. And Adam was like, yeah, I think so too. But
The backslash takes it out.
But I have a really good idea for a logo. And he showed me the logo, or like the idea of having a slash, and then we played around with it. But it it made a sense to partner in a lot of ways, because we do some things that you had wanted to do anyway, like with having the journal presence and then having those emails, but like you were covering pretty much everything else. I mean, with Real Pants, there's a blog space with daily content, and then with having print books, including Muse, it was like, let's get this shit on lockdown.
That's an optimistic way of looking at it. I feel like maybe
I love the difference
I'm
of
optimist.
this. You're like, we got to do this so more presses don't go under, and inspire them to work together.
That's because he knows the business, and I'm like,
I know the business, and he's optimistic.
Right.
It's kind of funny though, because like you two are on the you've done like what, 6 or 7 episodes of the podcast now.
And this is the 8th, right?
You got all
at this point, while we're recording, there's only been 8 put online. But this is John. What number is this that we're recording?
This is episode 13.
Yeah, so you guys are pretty deep into it, but it feels kind of fun to be hanging out with you guys, like
2 miles deep.
Yeah.
As Greg was holding up the bottle of 2 miles deep water.
For our audience, we're drinking 2 miles deep water. For some reason, 2 miles is the optimal amount. Anything else is just shit. I don't know.
Just carrying on with our fancy water here at Lit&Bruised. Lit&Bruised.com supports 2 mile water.
Yeah, I feel like we need like the guy who runs Gimlet or whatever to come in and like do the ad for 2 miles deep now. Anyway, it's cool to be hanging out with you guys, like at the like just having started and having a great beginning for your project. It's
well, thank you.
It's
totally.
Like 4 people that are merging their ideas and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, just that whole give and take of the partnership is always great in a creative endeavor.
Yeah. I feel like that Greg is going to bring a lot of like the Muse Journal is going to bring a lot of consistency and regularity for Publishing Genius.
And from Muse's perspective, it's like obvious to have like a brand, like, and with everything that Adam's done to like build. I mean, because you guys just talked about over 50 books.
You build a really good brand, Adam. You did. I mean, your brand.
That didn't sound right, did it? Building a brand.
I hear it way too much.
I resist it. Yeah, but I also totally fetishize like startup culture, and like How about this? You built an artistic legacy that inspired others. That's beautiful.
See, it sounded like it was pretty thick, but.
That seems like that's the rap right there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to close out here. Do either of you have anything you want to plug other than the awesome plug of Muse and Publishing Genius working together next year?
I think it's going to be muse.publishinggenius.com.
Okay.
Got a subdomain going.
All right. Yeah. Why get a new domain?
Yeah, that's right.
Goes with the whole
Who
ethos.
knows? Maybe we'll talk to some SEO people and work on the brand. The artistic collaboration.
All right.
Whole lot of literary synergy. Wow, that's a tough one to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So thanks, guys, for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I think this 2 miles deep water is good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Greg.
That's right, John.
All right, everybody. I'm sure we'll have links up on the site about everything with Muse, who we've plugged many times, and of course Publishing Genius as well. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.